Understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time. Happy Friday, back with another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech. Today we are exploring ChatGPT's role in enhancing enterprise productivity. So came across an article, and I'll get into it when I start the show. But I just wanted to kind of do some investigation on the enterprise aspect of ChatGPT and so forth. Just have like an interesting discussion around it. Before we hop into the show, we're gonna just do some housekeeping. We are streaming live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, also Twitch. Let me do something on the side here. Cut this volume off just in case of some dings. We are streaming live from those locations. We also have a separate stream going from Instagram. Shout out to all my people on Instagram watching me. My man Franz from back in the days. Okay. So where are we at today? Shout out on the comments if you're there. Let me see if everybody's like checking in from. Let me open up a separate stream because sometimes for some reason I don't see LinkedIn chats. So give me a second. Let me just get that going real quick. Just do some housekeeping. 1 second when we start the show. Okay, cool. See that going. Okay, now we can see the comments on that side. Okay. Now that everything is going, let's kick off the show and get into it. So, my name is Nnamdi Oswago. I'm the host of the Tech Behind FinTech. Every week we come live at 12 p.m. On Fridays. Today I want to talk about exploring ChatGPT's role in enhancing enterprise security. So, unless you've been under a rock somewhere, ChatGPT, the large language model, is taking the world by storm. Everyone's using it to do, every single task you can think of online. It's an AI tool that has massive amounts of data from everything prior to, I think now their date is 2023, I think, so, or even sooner. So essentially, it's a total automation tool to help you write letters, anything you can think of, debug code, various tasks end to end. If you want it to, it's these things called prompts. We have previous shows on it, so I don't want to get into the exact thing. I just want to give like an overview of the large language model and the different use cases, from letter writing to being your personal assistant to being an expert in whatever you can think of, and also giving you some ideas around that. It's a total phenomenal tool that has taken the world by storm these last couple of years. What I wanted to get into is, a lot of people have been using it more on the personal side, but what we're seeing now is enterprise corporations getting licenses so their employees can use it. The risk prior to the enterprise edition, in which you have people that were using it for work-related tasks, is that it is a third-party large language model that every time you input information into it, it takes your data and then it uses it to train their model. So obviously, if you're putting sensitive information in the tool, that could be a privacy risk. So that was like the main thing. So when it first came out and people were like, oh, wow, this is phenomenal, I'm using it in my personal life. Wow, it can make my job a whole lot easier. So, the things they would do is have it running on their work computer, and essentially they'll then start, trying to get help with their work-related tasks by inputting their sensitive information. That, from a security perspective, violates privacy. You don't know where that data is going to end up. You don't know who accessed it, and now you're exposing your corporation or your company to risk around that. So, the brilliant people over at ChatGPT slash Microsoft, they said, okay, why don't we put out an enterprise edition, which they have now, and I want to explore that. Um, I saw a stat that says like 92% of Fortune 500 companies are using the enterprise edition, and one of the things with the enterprise edition is that it avoids they state they don't train your they don't use the company's data to train their model. So, let's get into that and talk about it, because I find it very interesting. There's still some, you know, risk with using AI tools and just taking it for, whatever it tells you, taking it for 100% fact. Because there's something called hallucinations, in which the tool will produce an answer that seems correct, but it is grossly inaccurate. And then, taking that as law can be a problem, because you're relying on false information. So it's always good to verify. But we will get into all of those, because I'm just something I was reading. I was just found it very interesting. So what it came about was this, right? Um, there's a Spanish bank called BBVA, right? And they partnered with ChatGPT to distribute generative AI tools among their workforce. So they basically they're located in Balbo headquartered groups. The Balbo headquartered group says that it has now started to deploy 3,000 ChatGPT enterprise licenses among its employees operating in central services in Spain, and also plans to extend licenses to employees in groups in other main countries in due course. The aim is for all areas and departments to have access to ChatGPT, so that licensed employees can collaborate with their colleagues in undertaking various projects. The group statement continues. They previously announced its intention to cultivate over 2,600 technology-focused roles in June last year, with specific focus on AI and data science roles. Let's get a last quote from them. Read the article and I started to just dive into this. And I want to just bring this to you guys and have a cool discussion around it. Ricardo Martin Manjon, global head of data at BBVA, says the agreement will serve as a game changer in how we support our customers in their decision and offer personalized services, and will help to stimulate creativity among our employees. So, in this particular case, the Spanish bank, they have the enterprise edition that they're using. So, once I read that happened like this week or so, the article came out. I just wanted to dive deeper and say, okay, like this whole enterprise edition, like how does it work? Not all companies are using it. I know some startups that have actually blocked, from a security perspective, some startups have actually blocked the Chat GPT URL, so their employees can't access it from their workstations because of the risk of data leakage. But they don't have the enterprise edition. It was just more for personal consumption and so forth. So let's get into it. All right, first thing, let's talk about slide here. So we're going to talk about the enterprise edition. Let's get into it. Okay. Give me a second. I have to cut that off. So we have the all right, so we're familiar with the personal edition. Fat ChatGPT, they have a free edition in which it has a certain amount of services and access to a certain version of ChatGPT 3.5. Then they have the plus edition. So all these are still personal, meaning individuals can sign up for it and then use it for your personal consumption and different services. And the free one is free, $0 a month. Then the next step up is plus, and that's $20 a month. You get, more features with that, 5 times more messages with ChatGPT for not access to data analysis, file uploads, vision, web browsing, Dolly, create and use custom GPTs, early access to new features, and so forth. So that's with the plus. That's personal, right? And that's the one that most people have been using for the last 2 years and they're used to. Now, let's look at their enterprise. All right, so cool. Wait, next slide, right? So it's two versions of enterprise. They have a team version for fast growing teams looking to supercharge collaboration. And now they have the enterprise version for innovative companies looking to scale. So what's the difference, right? Everything in plus, right? So that's the one for the individual. Higher message limits on GPT-4 and the next version is up. You can create and share GPTs with your workspace, admin console for workspace management, team data excluded from training by default. So that's really important to know, right? It's that whole data and privacy leakage. So your team data is excluded from training. So they're not in the Teams version. It costs $25 per user per month, billed annually, extra $5 if you're going to do it per month. So I would assume team, you're looking at, small teams and so forth. You have a company you want to pay. Let's say you have 10 people, like small startup, scrappy. You have 10 people. It equates to about $300 a month, and then you're getting the team version. And once again, you're avoiding the data leakage aspect. Next step, enterprise. Now we're talking about like big. You got like 1,000, like the company we just looked at, right? BBPA. They have 2,600 employees, but they wanted 3,000 licenses. So they're pretty big. So you get everything included in team, unlimited high-speed access to GPT-4 and tools like Dolly, expanded context window for longer inputs, enterprise data excluded from training by default, and custom data retention windows. So talk about data retention windows. How long are they keeping your data, right? So as you start using it, you're putting a lot of company information, potential PII. Your question you always want to ask yourself when these things happen is like, how long is that vendor? Because, obviously OpenAI, from your company's perspective, is a third-party vendor. So how long are they going to keep that data? So you can obviously, they're saying that they have custom data retention windows, meaning that, from an admin's perspective, you can set that up. Admin controls, domain verification, analytics, priority support, and ongoing account management. So that's what you get for the team and the enterprise. Those are the professional versions, and supposedly data's not leaked. Let's go into some more stuff. So these were the security concerns, because it's all part of their site moves you got. So ownership, you own and control your data. So they state, we do not, this is from OpenAI, we do not train on your business data. Data from ChatGPT team and enterprises or API platform. You own your inputs and outputs where allowed by law. You control how long your data is retained in ChatGPT Enterprise. They don't have that option in terms of the custom control for team. So if you're going to get team, you have to look out for that, right? For those that just joined, what we're talking about is ChatGPT large language model. If you don't know what it is, Google it. Everyone's using it. It helps you automate a ton of things. And we're just getting into the difference between the personal consumption, but we're talking about the enterprise consumption. And this is just giving a summary for those who just joined. And one of the things from a security perspective is, once you're giving your corporate data to this third party, how long is that data going to be retained? And also, are they going to use that data to further train their model like they do with their free and plus edition? So that's what we're talking about right now. So I have to give a quick little background check. I'm seeing people joining the conversation. All right, cool. So control, right? In the enterprise, enterprise level authentication through SAM or SSO. That's just, in terms of your secured login and so forth. You probably have that for your other applications. Fine-grained control over access and available feature. Custom models are yours alone to use and are not shared with anyone else. So that means if you now take and you build your own model or you start customizing it, is for your company's consumption. They're not going to use it for other clients. Security, comprehensive compliance. So they've been audited for top 2 compliance. From our sponsor, Strategic Generation, also offers SOC 2 services. Had to throw that in. Data encryption at rest and transit. So that means, essentially, when the data is stored in a database, that's rest. It's secured with AES 256 encryption, and when the data is moving from or being sent to a location, it's also secured in transit. So that's what rest in transit means. So that's the stuff with enterprise. So supposing now, if you're using enterprise, your data is protected, obviously, based on what the vendor is stating on their website. So let's look at some other things. There's some stats that were pulled out, which I found very interesting, not in terms of the enterprise edition, but employee adoption. So these stats were more around employees that don't have enterprise. They have their own personal chat plus subscription, their own personal chat GPT or OpenAI subscription, and they're using it at work. And now from a security perspective, that gets dicey because you're putting, it depends what, if you're putting generic stuff in that's not specific to your company. Now, I don't have any problems with that personally. If I put my security hat on, you can't identify the company. You're not putting in custom code. You're not putting in anything with IP. You're given a scenario, right? Like how you would use it is a random scenario. And it's basically giving you, some hints of how you could tackle a situation at your job. I don't see the risk in that. I do see the risk when you have a personal ChatGPT account and then you start putting in specific details around your company's data, whether that's their clients, whether that's uh, customers, whether that's addresses, information, all those things. And then we start getting into data privacy issues, because now you're essentially giving that data to a third party that doesn't have that they don't have statements around your personal chat GPT account, that they're not going to use the data to train. You don't know how long they're going to retain that data and so forth. It's really dicey real quick. Matter of fact, there was an issue. There was multiple issues in different companies, but it's one that I want to call out in particular over at Samsung. Let me see if I can find this in my notes. Let's see. What's an issue? Give me a second. Give me one second. Yep, there it is. Okay. April 6, 2023. News broke that Samsung discovered employees putting confidential data into ChatGPT, including source code, in order to debug it, and transcripts of internal meetings to summarize them. As an emergency measure, the company limited input to ChatGPT to 1,024 bytes. So, so that happened last year. Now, I don't know, based on this, right? It doesn't look like Samsung had the enterprise edition. It looked like employees were just basically using their ChatGPT account, whether they had the free or plus version, but their personal account. Making assumptions here, right? Because that's why they were limited. And one of the things, like this tools, it's been it revolutionized a lot of things in terms of just productivity, right? So if you code, right, if you're a developer and let's say you're stuck, right, and this seems to be what happened here, you're stuck on a particular issue in your code, right? You take that source code, dump it in Chat GPT, and you're kind of like, where am I stuck? What are you seeing? It's going to give you some hints, right? It makes your job easier. Problem is that source code is protected intellectual property and owned by your company. So now, if you're in the plus or free account, they can use that to train other models, and and now you basically leaked information. Huge problem, right? Now, with this particular article, you're also taking transcripts from internal meetings, right? And you're putting it in a personal chat GPT account. Red flag, man. It's privacy issues all over the place, right? You basically are taking internal stuff that was discussed. I mean, let's just remove chat GPT from the conversation. And let's just say you had a company meeting. And this is why sometimes security is like common sense sometimes. You had a company meeting and there were notes, a whole transcript on that meeting, and then you went and posted it on the internet, right? Does that scream like you've had to have signed during your onboarding process so it works anywhere. You have a bunch of policies that you have to sign off for, things that you would not do. Usually there's a person like myself who works in security and a team, and will come up with different policies based on, industry standard frameworks to help govern your cybersecurity program, right? So you're going to sign something. And one of the things you're going to sign, okay, where you're at, especially if it's an enterprise, you're not going to leak confidential information. And that's regardless of tools or whatever. So now you think about that, you're taking this phenomenal tool that can help you out, of course, but you're taking sensitive company information and you're putting it in that tool. Big problem. So that's what happened last year. There's another issue in which, because look, all these tools is built by people, and being in technology for so long, I've seen the best intended tools and software built by companies that I consulted with. Sometimes they don't work as designed. Sometimes they have issues, right? So another issue was March 21st, 2023. OpenAI shut down ChatGPT due to a bug that mislabeled chats in users' history with titles of chats from other users, to the extent that those titles contain sensitive or confidential information and that they could have exposed to other ChatGPT users. So in that instance, that wasn't intentional. It's just that the tool that you're relying on, they're built by people. And sometimes when you're built by people, you have, it doesn't work as designed. You have sometimes issues with that. It becomes a problem. So, so hence these were just cases before that they used that. So we want to be careful in a sense. So that's why we kind of transition to the enterprise aspect of it, because you can now internally, it obviously, the company will pay for it and it has to be rolled out from a corporate perspective. It's not your individual account and how you have to have access to it the same way you would have different access controls around accessing corporate systems will be the same thing. It's another vendor, but the big thing is the data and the sensitivity on that. Let's see if there are questions or chats from the audience. Hold on. I don't see any, so we are proceeding. All right, so let's get into so the one thing I wanted to kind of talk about also with any large language model tool. I mean, everyone's using AI for different things. I want to talk about this concept that they call hallucinations. So basically, a hallucination is something that seems real that is not real. And we use these different tools. So in the whole AI aspect, right? You could potentially ask, okay, my people are shouting me out. What's up, Rich? So I have a whole Instagram feed going. Appreciate you, man. What's up, bro? All my guys who joined. Let me shout some people out real quick. We got Rich. Oh, shout out to Pursuit Fitness, my guy. Shout out to Raleigh. Have to check your massages out. You just open up a new office. Shout out to CB. Thanks, guys, for viewing. Appreciate it. All right, so back to hallucinations, right? So, like I said, right, what's a hallucination? Just outside of AI, the simple way is like something that seems real that is not real. So now taking it from an AI perspective, right? So you're putting in this information. ChatGPT has been on point. You've been loving it. Everything's been working out well. And you've been relying on it. Now I'm talking about the risk from a corporate side, right? So now you're asking it a question, right? Whether you're in fintech, whether you whatever vertical, right? Obviously, it's a tech behind fintech, so we mainly talk about fintech, but this can apply to any vertical. Now, it's been right all the time, and then you've been taking this thing as law. But what if, and this happens, it states something that off the first view seems pretty accurate, but it is wholly false, not accurate, not true. But you take that as fact, right? And then you make a business decision based on that fact. That's when it becomes problematic and it could become detrimental, a huge risk to your organization, depending on your role and how critical certain decisions that you make. So it's really important to understand that although it's, you know, what was a big thing? Trust but verify, right? So even with using it on an enterprise scale, you still want to double check. Like, that's one of the practices I always do. It states something. I'm like, that's cool. It makes sense, but let's Google it. See, let's see other references. Then you can make a more sound decision. I mean, if it's going to be adopted from an enterprise level, which but it's happening, right? I think employees understanding the risk of hallucinations, double checking the answers, something that might seem right may not be right, and especially if you're going to base that off of you're going to use that information to make a major decision that can impact your company. And I think the human validation and talking it over with colleagues is very, very important, right? So the idea is combining AI outputs with human review and help identify and correct hallucinations before they impact decision making. So that's a bit of a risk, right? With that. Yeah, man. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's just misinformation. So that is a risk, a huge, huge, huge risk. What else? What else we want to talk about? I mean, that's really it. I wanted to just really get into these different topics because there was some stats, right? Um, this was taken last year. It's the stats I'm looking at in which it has like percentage of people that paste. We talked about this, that paste company data into ChatGPT or really confidential data, and it was rising, last year, like around less than 4% June of last year, and this is assuming that they didn't have the enterprise version. They're using their personal ChatGPT accounts. Some other kind of tips I wanted to talk about. Chart. Let's get into. Oh no, there was let me get back to the notes, right? One of the other things I wanted to bring up. One of the other things, it was something interesting that I saw in terms of some frequently asked questions. One second. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Something. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is really important, right? It's some stuff I want to talk about the chat history and conversation and OpenAI's policies around data retention. But before we get into that, we have to take a brief moment for our sponsors. So give me a second and let's cue it up and we'll be right back.
Are you an emerging fintech with a limited budget seeking more sales and partners? Introducing Strategic Generation, your partner in leveraging cybersecurity for sales and partner enablement. Fintechs often lose opportunities due to unsophisticated cybersecurity programs. That's where we come in. Strategic Generation assists with due diligence, security posture visibility, penetration testing, and on-demand virtual CISO services. We connect your systems to our partnered platform, and voila! Instant access to real-time diagnostics and compliance frameworks such as SOC 2 and PCI DSS. Gain the confidence of prospects and partners. Strengthen your cybersecurity program and drive success. Stop losing deals due to cybersecurity. Visit strategicgeneration.com and click on On-Demand CISO to connect with an expert.
All right, guys, and just like that, we are back. All right, so there's the last couple of things that I wanted to get into regarding the enterprise, right? And it's on their website when they're frequently asked questions, right? Who can view conversations in chat history in ChatGPT Enterprise? Within your organization, end users can view their own conversations. Your organization has control over workspaces, and workspace admins can access an audit log of conversations and GPT through enterprise compliance API. Authorized OpenAI employees will only ever access your conversations for the purposes of resolving incidents, recovering end user conversations with your explicit permissions, or where required by applicable law. So let's break that down. Number one, right? Where required by applicable law. So if the feds or someone has some sort of subpoena, I would assume, or there's some sort of what do they call it when lawyers have to discovery, right? Required by law, they have access to that data. So understand that. So if OpenAI gets subpoenaed for your company, they need to get that data. They have access to those conversations. The same with email and anything you can get subpoenaed on in a discovery purpose, or if you have some sort of legal issues and it's an investigation and it's some sort of subpoena. All right. So next, right? Another thing that they state. So let's say that you're putting sensitive information. Understand that you have a problem in terms of, I don't know, you need help from their support. Authorized OpenAI employees have access to the conversations as well. It's important to understand that. Start looking at data privacy and so forth. You have to kind of read through these documentation when you're potentially giving access to another company or vendor with your sensitive data. You have to understand your rights and what's happening. Next question. What is OpenAI's policy on data retention for ChatGPT? So you put all the sensitive data, it's been helping you. They're not training, which is good because you have the enterprise edition, but what is their data retention policy? So how long is your data going to stay on their system? So your workspace admin, so those are the people that are managing it on your side. Any deleted conversations are removed from our systems within 30 days. So let's say you delete something, right? On your view, it still exists on their system automatically for 30 days, unless we are legally required to retain them. Important note, right? So if you're putting in certain things that you could be held liable against, or it can come up in a court of law, right? And the courts or whoever says, listen, you cannot delete that data. We need it as part of our case. Important to read that. 30 days or unless we are required to legally retain them. Note that retention enables features like conversation history, and shorter retention periods may compromise product experience. So really important to know, because sometimes you're using it and then as you use it, it helps you gain some more insight. And then they could circle back and say, oh, well, you said this a month ago, and give you a richer experience. So they're saying that, obviously, and that's something that, when you start looking at the different policies you want around these types of tools, you have to think through it, right? Usually with your compliance team, usually the security team, the business, and come to some sort of decision. It's pretty cool. Like I said, and I came up with this topic based on BBVA article and then looking at how other enterprises are leveraging it. And I know before in previous shows last year, we talked about how people using their personal ChatGPT accounts, but for business purposes, their corporate business purposes. So it's important to understand all this stuff, especially when you're dealing with data privacy and so forth. That concludes today's show. I thank you guys for riding with me and sticking through it, man. It's I have my geek mode, so this kind of stuff excites me. So I like to read about it and understand it more. And I hope that you learn something as well. Every week we are here from 12 p.m. We start at 12 p.m. And it's live. We do various topics, so please circle back, join us. Also, in the show description, you'll see a link to subscribe to our mailing list. Please do. You're gonna get to keep up with our news articles that we publish every week. You're gonna get to never miss a beat, upcoming guests, and so forth. So go ahead and subscribe. And put your information, and we'll be part of the Tech Behind FinTech family, man, or the growing community that we have. So definitely subscribe. On that note, I really thank you for viewing it. Enjoy your weekend. Weather is excellent on the East Coast. And it's pretty much it, guys. Have a great day. Cheers.
Understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.